Deep in the jungles of Cambodia stands the largest religious structure ever built by human hands. For centuries, it lay hidden beneath roots and vines, nearly forgotten by the world. It was the heart of an empire that once housed nearly 1 million people, at a time when London had fewer than 50,000. This is the story of Angkor, the lost city that redefined everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. By around the year 1200, Angkor was a spectacle without equal, a city of stone towers, canals, and vast reservoirs spread across the tropical forest, covering an area larger than any known pre-industrial metropolis. In scale, it was one of the largest cities that had ever existed before the Industrial Age, and almost no one outside Southeast Asia even knew it existed. But it all began centuries earlier, on the fertile plain north of the Great Tonlé Sap Lake. There, around the year 800, monsoons flooded the rice paddies, rivers overflowed with fish, and the jungle was generous. It was in this cradle of water and mud that a people began to dream of an empire. And that dream would be born from a ceremony atop a sacred mountain. In 802, a king climbed a mountain and declared himself Devaraja, the God King. Before drums, incense, and Hindu priests, the Khmer Empire was born. From that moment on, the ruler was not merely a sovereign. He was considered the very manifestation of the divine on earth. It was the beginning of a dynasty that would dominate Southeast Asia for more than 600 years. The true secret of Khmer power, however, lay not only in religion, it lay in water. They built vast rectangular reservoirs, known as barays, linked to a network of canals that captured monsoon water and distributed it through months of drought. This hydraulic engineering allowed for as many as 3 rice harvests a year. It was this abundance that fed an entire empire. This is a real photo of Angkor Wat, the largest religious monument ever built on Earth. Notice the 5 lotus bud towers and the immense moat surrounding the temple. This is not a reconstruction. It is the genuine structure, still standing after nearly 900 years in the heart of the Cambodian jungle. This was the height of an empire much of the world didn't even know existed. The city grew fast. Wooden houses raised on stilts, bustling markets, monks walking among elephants and ox-drawn carts. Above it all, stone towers began to rise. At its peak, Angkor is estimated to have housed between 750,000 and 900,000 people, an urban scale medieval Europe couldn't even imagine. Khmer priests and astronomers studied the sky with striking precision, aligning every temple to the sunrise and to sacred directions. To them, a temple was not just a building. It was a miniature model of the universe itself, a bridge between the world of men and the world of the gods. This cosmic vision would guide the greatest construction still to come. Around 1120, the throne was held by an ambitious king, Jayavarman II. Before him, courtiers bowed in total reverence. He had seized power by force, unifying rival territories under his command. He was a god king in his prime, determined to leave behind a monument that would surpass everything any Khmer ruler had built before. And that is exactly what he ordered. Before his architects and a model of the project, under the flickering light of oil lamps, Jayavarman II announced the construction of the greatest temple ever raised by human hands, a sanctuary dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu. Its name is known throughout the world today, Angkor Wat. The construction was monumental. Thousands of workers floated blocks of sandstone on rafts, ferrying them along canals from a quarry in the mountains, dozens of kilometers away. It was a logistical effort of staggering scale, coordinated with near military precision. Every block of stone represented days of labor, and the temple would need millions of them. Meanwhile, master Khmer sculptors carved the sandstone with extraordinary delicacy, shaping lotus bud towers and intricate reliefs. It was the work of generations, not years. Art and engineering advanced hand in hand, and every carved stone carried both religious purpose and political ambition. Around the entire complex, workers dug an immense moat, nearly 200 meters wide, encircling the temple like a cosmic ocean. It was more than defense. In Hindu cosmology, it represented the ocean surrounding Mount Meru, home of the gods. The hydraulic engineering that already fed the empire now served its religion as well. At the center of it all, 5 towers began to rise, representing the 5 peaks of sacred Mount Meru. Seen from a distance, they dominated the horizon of the plain, monumental against the tropical sky. No other building in Southeast Asia would compare to its scale. Angkor Wat was emerging as the largest religious monument on Earth. The temple's walls were covered with long galleries of bas-reliefs, kilometers of carved stone depicting myths, battles, and gods. It was, quite literally, sacred scripture in stone, wrapped around the entire structure. In the low light of evening, the carved figures seemed to come alive, telling stories to anyone who knew how to read them. One of the most famous reliefs depicts the churning of the sea of milk. Gods and demons, joined together, pull a giant serpent to churn the cosmic ocean and create the nectar of immortality. It is one of the central myths of Hinduism, carved with breathtaking detail. Even today, art historians consider this scene one of the masterpieces of world sculpture. Scattered across the temple's walls, thousands of apsaras, celestial dancers, were carved in stone, each with a unique hairstyle, jewelry, and expression. No two are exactly alike. It is a silent catalog of Khmer beauty and artistic skill, etched to last for millennia. Few ancient civilizations left behind such a vast record of their own aesthetic. By around 1150, Angkor Wat was complete. Radiant, originally painted in vivid colors, reflected in perfect stillness in its own moat at dawn. It was, and remains, the largest religious monument ever raised on the face of the earth. A feat of faith, power, and engineering that would take the rest of the world decades even to comprehend. Grand ceremonies filled the temple, robes of saffron and white, incense rising to the heavens, offerings to Vishnu before great crowds. The God King stood at the center of a living sacred universe, where religion and political power were, in practice, one and the same. Angkor Wat was not just a temple. It was physical proof that the gods approved of that reign. Jayavarman II's power spread across much of Southeast Asia. Roads and temples radiated out from Angkor, connecting an empire of millions of subjects. It was the political high point of the Khmer kingdom. But no empire, however powerful, is free of rivals, and threats were already gathering at the borders. This is one of the giant stone faces that would make Angkor unforgettable, the serene smile carved into the towers of the Bayon Temple. There are more than 200 of these colossal faces, gazing in every direction. Remember this image. Soon you'll discover who ordered these smiles carved across the entire city. But peace didn't last. Around 1177, the rival Cham fleet sailed upriver and caught Angkor by surprise, sacking the capital of the empire. It was a devastating blow to Khmer pride and power. The city that once seemed invincible had been humiliated. And from that crisis would emerge one of the most remarkable rulers in the history of Southeast Asia. That ruler was Jayavarman VII. No longer young, he led the reconquest, drove out the invaders, and by around 1181 had rebuilt the empire stronger than ever. Unlike the god kings before him, he brought with him a different vision of power, one shaped by Buddhist compassion, not military force alone. Under Jayavarman VII, the empire began converting to Buddhism. The cult of the warrior god king gave way to a spirituality centered on caring for the people. He ordered the construction of more than 100 hospitals and rest houses along the kingdom's roads. It was one of the first great public health systems recorded anywhere in world history. Jayavarman also built his own monumental city, Angkor Wat, surrounded by walls and towering gates crowned with serene stone faces. Before each entrance, rows of statues of gods and demons pulled on sacred serpents, a mythic scene on a monumental scale, guarding the boundaries of the new capital. At the center of Angkor Wat, he raised the Bayon Temple, a veritable mountain of stone covered by more than 200 giant, smiling faces, gazing in every direction at once. To this day, no one knows for certain whose faces these are, perhaps Jayavarman himself, perhaps a bodhisattva. The mystery only deepens the power of the image. The bas-reliefs of the Bayon are unlike anything that came before. Instead of myths and gods, they depict the everyday life of ordinary Khmer people. Markets, fishermen on the Tonlé Sap, cooking, festivals. It is a rare window into how common people lived 800 years ago. A record few ancient civilizations left us in such detail. Jayavarman VII's public works were extraordinary. More than 100 hospitals, rest houses along the roads, reservoirs and bridges throughout the kingdom. To this day, he is remembered as one of the few ancient rulers whose defining legacy was not conquest, but genuine care for the well-being of his people. At the Terrace of the Elephants, the great parade ground of Angkor Wat, the king reviewed his army, soldiers, and war elephants in ceremonial formation. It was the stage where imperial power was displayed in its most visible form, the place where the empire's military strength was shown to subjects and foreign visitors alike. Around 1296, a Chinese envoy named Zhou Dagwan arrived in Angkor and wrote the only eyewitness account that survives today of the city at its height. His meticulous notes on customs, architecture, and daily life would become, centuries later, one of the most valuable historical sources we have on the entire Khmer Empire. Thanks to accounts like Zhou Dagwan's and to modern excavations, we now know Angkor was the largest city in the world in its time. A low-density metropolis spread over an area comparable to today's largest cities, filled with wooden houses, stone temples, and canals threading through kilometers of forest. At the empire's height, the hydraulic network reached its fullest expression: barrages, canals, and moats storing monsoon water to irrigate as many as 3 rice harvests a year. It was the true economic engine of the empire, an engineering system so sophisticated it sustained a population comparable to the largest cities in all of medieval Europe. But the first signs of fragility were already appearing. The delicate water system began to show wear. Canals silting up, monsoons growing more unpredictable. What had once been the empire's greatest strength, control over water, was slowly becoming its greatest vulnerability as well. Modern tree-ring studies have revealed decades of severe drought, followed by violent monsoons and sudden floods, battering Angkor's canals and dikes. Nature itself, once tamed with such ingenuity, was beginning to turn against the very city that depended on it to survive. Little by little, the vast hydraulic network fell into decay, silted up, damaged, beyond the point of repair. The foundation of Khmer power, that brilliant system of barrages and canals, was slowly failing. Without controlled water, harvests were no longer guaranteed. And without harvests, an entire empire began losing its footing. At the same time, faith was shifting. Theravada Buddhism was gaining strength, and new maritime trade routes were diverting wealth and attention away from the river capital. Monks walked through an Angkor that grew ever quieter. The center of power, once absolute, was slowly dissolving toward other directions. Repeated wars against the rising kingdom of Ayutthaya to the west placed even more pressure on an already weakened empire. Armies pressed closer to the borders, and storm clouds seemed to gather on the kingdom's political horizon. Angkor, once invincible, now struggled just to remain standing. Around 1431, the Khmer court finally abandoned Angkor, moving the capital south, toward what is now the region of Phnom Penh. A long line of people and elephants left the great stone temples behind. It was a quiet, final departure, the end of more than 600 years of power centered in that place. The great city fell silent. Empty courtyards, untended sanctuaries, the enormous stone temples left standing alone as the population drained away to other places. What had once housed nearly 1 million people slowly became a vast, haunting stillness. These are the real inner galleries of Angkor Wat as they stand today. Stone columns, endless corridors covered in carvings, now almost always empty and silent. It was through passages like these that kings, priests, and thousands of the faithful once moved for centuries, before the city fell silent and the forest began reclaiming everything. The jungle began its advance. Vines and young saplings crept over abandoned terraces and galleries, nature silently reclaiming the works of kings. What had been built with such human ambition now yielded, slowly, to the patient, relentless rhythm of the tropical forest. Over the following centuries, the forest swallowed much of Angkor. Giant silk cotton trees and strangler figs grew directly over the temple roofs, their roots gripping the stone like slow, motionless rivers. It is one of the most striking and melancholy images in all of world archaeology. But Angkor Wat itself was never fully abandoned. Buddhist monks kept the temple alive as a place of pilgrimage across the centuries, their saffron robes standing out against the moss-covered stone. It was proof that faith, unlike the empire, had survived intact. To the outside world, Angkor became almost a legend, whispers of a lost city in the jungle, wrapped in mist and green shadow. Few Europeans believed it was even real. For centuries, the largest religious monument on the planet remained all but invisible to the rest of humanity. In 1860, French naturalist Henri Mouhot cut his way through the jungle and suddenly found himself facing the towers of Angkor Wat rising among the trees. It was a moment of absolute astonishment, like finding an entire city where the map showed nothing but empty forest. That encounter would forever change the way the world saw the past of Southeast Asia. Mouhot spent days sketching the temples by candlelight, writing that they rivaled anything left to us by Greece or Rome. His account, published after his death, stunned Europe. For the first time, the Western world realized that Asia had produced a civilization of a scale and sophistication comparable to the great classical cultures. In the decades that followed, explorers and photographers made their way to Angkor, dwarfed before ruins wrapped in centuries-old trees. Every photograph sent back to Europe fueled even greater fascination. Angkor was ceasing to be legend and becoming, once and for all, one of the world's great recognized archaeological treasures. In the 20th century, the great work of restoration began, archaeologists carefully clearing away vegetation, documenting and rebuilding fallen galleries, stone by stone. It was a meticulous, patient effort that would stretch across generations, an attempt to return to humanity what the jungle had nearly erased. One decision, however, was deliberately different: to leave the Temple of Top Rome in the embrace of its giant trees, roots, and stone forever intertwined. Today, it is one of the most beautiful images in the world, the meeting of nature and human art, frozen in an almost eternal balance. For decades, historians debated the true cause of Angkor's fall: war, religious change, or, above all, the collapse of its sophisticated water system in the face of climate extremes. Today, most researchers point to a combination of factors, but water, always water, seems to have been at the very center of it. It is impossible not to feel reverence before the scale of that loss. A civilization that raised the largest religious monument on Earth, slowly fading into the jungle, yet never fully erased. Angkor did not vanish. It merely slept, waiting to be found again. Today, modern Cambodia claims Angkor as its very soul. The towers of Angkor Wat sit at the exact center of the national flag, the only flag in the world featuring such a detailed architectural monument in its design. The ancient glory of the empire has become the living identity of an entire nation. Saffron-robed monks and Cambodian families still worship at Angkor Wat today, nearly 1,000 years after it was built. It is an unbroken thread of faith, perhaps one of the longest in the world. The temple never stopped being sacred, even after the empire that built it had vanished completely. Khmer culture survived well beyond the fall of the empire. Classical Apsara dance, the language, Buddhism, and art remain alive in modern Cambodia. It is quiet proof that civilizations don't simply disappear. They transform, adapt, and keep pulsing forward in new forms across the centuries. Modern archaeologists continue excavating and conserving Angkor's temples and canals with scientific care, recovering, stone by stone, a world that once seemed lost. It is ongoing work, already spanning more than a century, still far from finished. Angkor keeps revealing secrets. A recent technological revolution changed everything. Aerial laser scanning, LiDAR, digitally stripped away the jungle canopy and revealed a hidden city far larger than anyone had imagined. Entire streets, canals, and neighborhoods concealed beneath the vegetation. It was like seeing, for the first time, the true size of Angkor. That scan revealed the city's real scale. An urban complex engineered on an extraordinary level, home to between 750,000 and 900,000 people. One of the largest cities to exist anywhere on the planet before the Industrial Age. Angkor was, quite literally, bigger than any historian had ever supposed. These are the giant roots swallowing the temple of Ta Prohm in a real photo taken today. Enormous fig trees grow over the walls, their roots embracing the stone like slow rivers. It is the most famous image of Angkor, nature and human work locked in a centuries-long embrace, impossible to pull apart. Today, tourists from around the world walk, tiny, beneath the towers of Angkor at sunrise, the jungle finally held back at the edges of the archaeological site. The ancient city seems, in a way, to breathe again, no longer as the capital of an empire, but as the living memory of one of the greatest civilizations Asia ever produced. It's striking to contrast the once painted, vibrant Angkor with the weathered stone Angkor we know today. The same towers, spanning 8 centuries of history. 2 versions of the same place, separated by time, yet united by the same human ambition to touch the divine through stone. Among all the images of Angkor, few are as mesmerizing as a single serene beyond face emerging from the stone. That enigmatic Khmer smile watching the centuries pass, unhurried, never fully explained. It is one of the great artistic mysteries humanity has ever produced. The silhouette of Angkor Wat has become a global icon, one of the most recognizable monuments on Earth, drawing millions of visitors every year. Few religious structures in the world carry such symbolic weight, and few have withstood the passage of nearly 1,000 years so well. Conservationists today use 3-dimensional scanning and careful engineering to protect the temples from collapse, from over-tourism, and from time itself. It is a constant race between preserving the past and allowing the present to keep admiring this wonder without slowly destroying it. It's worth remembering, with dignity, the anonymous builders, the engineers, sculptors, and water masters who raised Angkor with their own hands, leaving no names behind in history. It was they, not just the kings, who made this monumental feat of architecture, faith, and hydraulic engineering possible. There is something deeply moving about Ta Prohm at dusk, the giant roots and the temple's stone locked in a slow, eternal embrace. It is perhaps the most poetic image in all of Angkor, visual proof that nature and human ambition always find a way to coexist in the end. It's impossible not to return, at the end of this story, to the figure of Jayavarman VII, the compassionate god-king whose serene face still smiles in hundreds of carvings across Angkor, 8 centuries later. Few ancient rulers left behind a mark as human and as lasting as his. Angkor also carries a warning for the present, a powerful civilization brought down, in part, by climate extremes and by a relationship with its own water that was too fragile to endure. It is a lesson that spans the centuries and that, today, feels more relevant than ever to the modern world. Cambodian children today learn, with pride, about their ancestors who built Angkor. The heritage that nearly vanished into the jungle is now taught, celebrated, and passed down to each new generation as a fundamental part of Cambodia's national identity. Angkor's hydraulic wisdom and art continue to inspire the modern world. Engineers, historians, and artists still study that system of barrays and canals as an example of human ingenuity far ahead of its time. The ancient and the present remain in constant dialogue. There is a quiet invitation in seeing Angkor Wat reflected in its own moat at golden sunset. It is a timeless, serene moment, a reminder that, despite everything that was lost, the essence of that world still stands before us, waiting to be witnessed. At its painted height, under the golden morning light, with its 5 towers gleaming above the jungle and the moat, Angkor Wat was truly magnificent, an achievement no other civilization of its time could match. It deserves to be remembered this way, not only for its fall, but for everything that people were able to raise from water and stone. We close with a real photo of Angkor Wat seen from above, as it stands today. The 5 towers still rise over the moat, exactly where they were built nearly 900 years ago. The story of Angkor isn't only about an empire that fell, it's about everything that survives, even after the jungle tried to take it all. If this story moved you, stay with us here on World and Stories, where history is told the way it deserves to be told.